Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge here with another card reveal video thing. So today was the reveal for the new Gear Dragon ride line that is coming in set 11, Glauwind Dragon, and we're going to go over it. So Freedom Duo doesn't have his page up yet for the stream, um, but I have done these sorts of card reveal videos many times in the past, so I have worked something up to fix this up without like having to do too much editing. So let's get into it. All right. First, before we continue, I do want to give thanks to Kairos Darkblade for their translations, since I'm pulling all the text translations from their Twitter posts. So yes. This is starter. Nothing special going on with the starter. But look at it. There's a little chicken. All right. Let's move on to the actual stuff. All right. So the grade one of our ride line is Steam Fighter Gumul, and when it's rode upon by the grade two, you can Soul Blast one, draw two, and then you choose up to one normal unit from your hand, reveal it, put it to bottom, and if you did not reveal a card, you discard two. So it's a Rancor chain. You don't get to use it on turn one. I believe Liel's the Rancor chain works very similarly, but it's a Rancor chain. Like if you start your ride line with the Rancor chain, we're in a really good place. That's a really good starting point. That's like really nice. That's so good. Then the grade two is when it's rode upon by a grade 3 Gear Dragon, you look top 5, choose a unit from among them, call to rear if it's grade 3 or less, and add to your hand if it's not. So if it's a grade 4, you get to add to your hand. That's relevant to this deck. That's very relevant to this deck. Shuffle your deck, and if you did not reveal a card, you call to rear and soul charge 1. And then on rear, it gets plus 5k if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and either player's rear guard has been bound this turn. So yeah. So this card is also really good. Very notably, its ride line effect works when you ride on top of it with any grade 3 Gear Dragon. So timestamping now has like a proper ride line to work with, and it's a really good ride line. This is like a super high quality ride line. Like, oh my god, Rancor chain into top 5 grab any unit is such high quality. That's such a good starting point for any deck to have. Like, that's such a good baseline. Yeah, this ride line is just really impressive right out the gate. And one of the critical parts of this deck is going to be having, it has a main deck grade 4, and that it's really important to be able to get that main deck grade 4 into your hand on turn 3 during your main phase. So being able to add that off the top 5 with this grade 2 is really good. And like I do appreciate that, like even if you whiff, it still has this condition. Okay, I'm gonna call myself out, and you're still going to have something going on here. The random soul charge is a bit annoying because the grades of the stuff in your soul does kind of matter for this deck, and it does actually kind of screw up the math if you call this out and you randomly soul charge a grade 1 or grade 0 off of this. That does actually really screw up the math if that ends up happening to you. But it's whatever. It's fine. It's whatever. It's fine. Then here's the big man himself, Glauwind Dragon. So it's a Gear Dragon, of course. It has an act once per turn to bind a card from your soul to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and throw it to the bottom of the deck. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k. And then auto Vanguard when it attacks, you can counterblast 1, bind 2 of your rears. You search your deck for up to 2 unit cards whose total grade is equal to the total grade of the cards bound for this cost. Call them to rearguard in the same column and shuffle your deck. So spot removal is always like completely resource free. Spot removal to boot is always just like a really nice quality for a deck to have. It's always super good to see that in a deck. It's just very nice. Yeah, like that's just like a good quality, especially with it when it's alternate removal. So like if like, say for example, in the future when the Bite collab is out, you're against Ein. Alternate removal means you get to turn off that deck by bot decking the Aussie. And like there's a lot of annoying stuff that the sorts of alternate removal let you to do to decks that they might not necessarily be prepared for, which is always very, very nice. Like being able to throw like an Ezra back in the deck if they didn't protect it with variance, right? For example, is really good. Being able to throw Flare Cosmore back in the deck is another example from that deck that's really good. Lots of good stuff. Throw back a Trick Moon. They now have to try and dig for it again. Yeah, just good stuff. Good stuff. And then we're always going to be using this effect even against decks that mirage their whole board too, because the bind is really important. We'll get into that with the Grade 4. And then the on attack calls stuff out, calls them to the same column. That means 4 attacks. But don't worry, there is a way for this deck to get 5 attacks. So we aren't shit out of luck on 5 attacks in the world where everyone is doing 5 attacks. Do not worry about that. Yeah, this is a very solid Grade 3, backed up by a really good rideline. Decent flexibility on the on attack effect too. But we'll talk about this a bit more once we've talked about everything. And then here's the real big man, Eternal Overload Colossus. So this is a Grade 4 in your main deck. You cannot ride this card. If it's in your hand and you have a Grade 3 or greater Glauwind Vanguard, you can Energy Blast 3 and bind it from your hand to draw 2. Super nice. Super good effect. And then when it's placed on rear by the ability of your Grade 3 or greater Glauwind Vanguard, it gets all of the following until end of turn, based on the total grade of the Dark States cards in your bind zone. Very important that this is Dark States, because if Nationless cards worked for this, you could cheese these effects super easily with Sephiroth, putting it in with Nocturzio. Like, it'd be so easy. 10 or more on attack, it gets power plus 2k until 20k, power plus 20k until end of turn, and it's an 18k base. Power plus 20k until end of turn. At the end of that turn, you bind it and you draw a card. Then at 20 or more, once per turn, at the end of the battle that attacked, you can counterblast 1 to restand it. And 30 or more, continuous, this unit gets critical +1. So the 30 or more doesn't really matter, because the way the math works out at current is that the 30 or more is not going to be live until turn 5. And by turn 5, your opponent should be on 5 damage already. So getting an additional crit on this multiple swing rear guard is pretty superfluous at that point. The other 2 effects are what really matter. So we can, it looks like a lot, but 10 or more is actually pretty easy for this deck to get for on turn 3, as long as it can fulfill a single condition. And that single condition is draw into an Eternal Overload Colossus. As long as you can draw into one, you can bind it from your hand with its first effect, drawing 2 cards in the process. So it's always very profitable to do that too. And then across Glaowind's effects, you just need to bind 6 grades worth. So Grade 2 Rideline from the Soul, and then like bind like 2 Grade 2s, or Grade 3 and a Grade 1. Or Grade 2 and a Grade 1. That actually does work. That one does actually work, despite what you might expect. Because there's a Grade 1 in the deck that gets a higher grade on the rear guard, so it would count as a Grade 2. So like you could bind a Grade 2 and a Grade 1, and that Grade 1, and still get out Colossus. You can also do double Grade 3, all kinds of stuff that can allow you to get there. But you basically can't get there unless you're able to do that, which is a tricky bit. So you really need to find this on turn 3, but as long as you can do that, you're fine. Because then this thing will bind itself. So like going into your next turn, you're on 14 grades in bind, and you don't need to bind another copy of this from the hand to be able to get to 20. If we can get to 30, that's all right. There are some benefits to having that additional crit. Even if your opponent is at 5, it will force them to take like an early small hit because like the later hits are all going to have crit pressure. Yeah. There's also some really good flexibility with Glauwind itself. That like so like your 5 attack turn is going to cost 2 Counterblast, which is unfortunate in a world where almost every 5 attack deck in the game right now, a lot of them are only spending 1 Counterblast to achieve their 5 attacks. That's not really true. Like Vergilla does it that way, and Heartlaroo does it that way, but Bavzarga does cost 2 Counterblast, but like it has access to some easy counter charge. And Minerva does cost quite a bit of counterblast for it, but it has a lot of counter charge access to it. So like, this deck doesn't really have a ton of counter charge access. It does have Almathis. Almathis is really important because like you can just tech like 1 Almathis, and then you can just go okay, bind like 5 grades total for Glauwind, call out Eternal Overload and an Almathis behind it, an Almathis effect to counter charge 1. So even if you have only 1 open counterblast, you can use Almathis to still do your 5 attack turn. Also, plus 20k is just a lot, man. That's a lot of power. Like 38k solo is really big. That's huge. Those numbers are huge. Like 48k solo on the Persona Ride turn is really good numbers. Those are really impressive numbers out the gate. Now, like the deck isn't really generating good numbers really outside that. But let's talk about you're gonna have to have a lot of focus on trying to get your numbers up in the other parts of the deck. But we'll talk about that. We'll have time to talk about that. Next, moving into the support cards, we have, I believe this is a common, Stirring Tree Gearfrog, grade 1. When it's placed on rearguard from hand, which is already pretty unfortunate, if you have a grade 3 or greater Glauwind Vanguard, you choose a normal unit without Sentinel from your drop or bind, throw it to the bottom of your deck, and if you chose a grade 3 or greater, you soul charge 1, and this gets power plus 5k. So I think this is a pretty important card for them to print, so that like someone who is building the deck out of set 11 with like a have Dark States triggers and perfect cards and whatever, and they're just building this deck out of set 11. This card gives you the mechanism by which you can get your grade 4s back into the deck when you're late in the game and you're running out of them in deck, which is pretty important to be able to do. But there are much better options for this because Glauwind is a Gear Dragon. And being a Gear Dragon, that means Glauwind has access to both Gear Goat and Gear Parrot. And both of these cards do a lot more while providing the same throw a bind card back into the deck. Gear Goat on attack is Soul Blast 1, get plus 5k if you have a Gear Dragon Vanguard at the end of its battle. If you have a Gear Dragon Vanguard, you can Energy Blast 3, throw it to bottom, draw a card, and choose a rear guard or a card from your bind zone and throw it to the bottom of your deck. That can even return triggers, which is very nice. And then Gear Parrot, when placed on rear, immediately takes a normal unit from your drop or bind, throws it to the bottom of the deck, and then it gets plus 5k. However, it can't throw back Sentinels. Gear Goat can, and Gear Parrot also has to throw back normal units, so it can't throw back triggers if a trigger ends up in your bind. I don't know how that would really happen in this deck, but there's a universe where like you Nocturzio, put a trigger into your soul, throw that in with the effect of Glauwind because you've already have your necessary grade set up, and you could throw a trigger back that way or a Sentinel back that way. And then when it's put from rear to the bottom of your deck by your card's ability, or bound from rear by your card's ability during your turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you get Counter Blast 1, Energy Blast 3, or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card, and then give another one of your units plus 5k. So both of these cards are super, super solid for the deck. I think Gear Parrot is significantly better for the deck because it's a 13k booster, and it's a 13k booster that when you throw it back with bind it with the effect of Glauwind, is going to give plus 5k to something else, and that you draw a card. So that's pretty good value. So I like Gear Parrot quite a bit more than Gear Goat, but both these cards are doing the role of Gear Frog a lot better than Gear Frog. But Gear Frog being like an option within the set at common is still, I think, a very good thing to have designed into the set. Next, we have a rare grade 3 Steam Gunner Birolama. So this is when it's in your drop and your card is bound during your main phase. You can Energy Blast 3 and call it to rear. You can do this with multiple if you have the energy for that, which is pretty cool. And then on rear or Guardian Circle, if your Vanguard is a Gear Dragon, this gets power plus 5k and shield plus 5k. When the deck wants you to run extra grade 3s, it's always very nice if they have a bit of extra shield on them, so they have some worth in guarding. So I really appreciate that on this card. Really appreciate that it has that. But also, its power gain is coming from a continuous. And when a power gain comes from a continuous, that on a grade 2 or greater, that means it's a good contender for our good friend, the Boost Order package. I think the Boost Order package has a lot of potential in this deck. Making this an 18k booster can do a lot for making good numbers. Like, throw this behind, like, a Gear Goat. And that's going to be swinging for a cool 33. Right, is that the number? Yeah, 33. And that helps with the numbers of your other swings quite significantly, being able to do things like that. So yeah, I think this card is quite good. Very, very nice. And having grade 3 targets like this is good because, like, given that our grade 4 is so essential to find, Forbidal is probably the Regalis piece of choice, so that we have extra copies. And of course, Forbidal grabs a different named grade 3s and grade 4s, and it calls the grade 3s to the field. So having a grade 3 that we want on the field, like Birolama, is very solid. Very nice to have. And the last card for this deck is Steam Shooter Immutus. This is the double rare support card. Grade 1, during your turn, if either player's rearguard was put to deck or bound this turn, this unit gets grade +1 and power plus 2,000. So you do need your opponent to have a card on the field for you to throw to bot deck with the Act of Glauwind for this to be able to do the thing I was talking about earlier, where you have a grade 2 and grade 1 and you bind them and you're still able to call it the grade 4. But this is still quite nice. 10k boosters in general are very nice. Throwing this behind your Glauwind Vanguard, it'll always be a 10k booster at the time that matters, since this is a continuous. And yeah, this card is the really important part about this card is that at the end of the battle that this boosts, if your Vanguard is a Gear Dragon with Persona Ride, sorry, Chronojet, cost bind this unit and draw a card. Super, super nice. So this means that you can go like bind like 5 grades total, call out grade 4, call out this behind it, and then that's a 48k column, 58k under Persona Ride, that both cards in it are going to mirage and draw you more cards. Of course, this is also another mechanism by which you can get additional grades into your bind zone. I really wish this grade +1 also worked in the bind zone. That would be really nice if it did. Unfortunately, it does not. So it's only a grade 1 in there. But that can be the difference maker. If you're the one scenario where you can still get to 10 grades in bind without drawing into the grade 4 is like you get a grade 3 in soul somehow, probably Nocturzio. You bind it out for the Act. Then you have 2 grade 3 rear guards, one of them being Nocturzio, of course. And one of this card, at least one of this card. And this binds itself at the end of its boost, and then you bind those 2 grade 3s, and now you are at 10 in bind. You have just barely gotten to 10 in bind. So it is possible to get to the 10 bind, 10 grades in bind, without drawing into the grade 4. but it very much requires, it would not be possible without this card. So it is very nice that this card is the thing. This also means that going into your turn 4, you are actually at 15 grades in bind, because you are almost certainly calling this out, because it's the best grade 1 to put behind Colossus. This also makes a 28 column with the grade 3 we just talked about, which is pretty nice. And this card is just super good. Like definitely double worthy. Like very nice card. Yeah. I like this deck quite a bit. 38k rear just solo that mirages and draws a card is just super solid. And becoming like on Persona Ride turn 48, swinging twice, is really nice. It also should be said that it's pretty rare these days to have a deck who swings twice with a single rear after the Vanguard swing, because that lets you double dip on a trigger. Like any triggers you hit off of your Vanguard swing, you can just slap them all onto your Colossus, and now you get to take advantage of that bonus from the trigger on multiple swings. If it's a critical trigger, it's crazy. It's so good if it's a critical trigger. OT of choice here is probably blue OT, because it's super high value if you're able to put that onto Colossus on the once you're at 20 bind. Like that's super strong. Like this is a very good baseline. Like it's definitely not as good of a baseline as Heart Lure got, I don't think. But there is good deck thin here, to be honest. There is pretty solid deck thin here. Like you're thinning out 2 every turn with Glauwind's Call from deck, which is pretty nice. Nowhere near as good as Heart Lure's, of course, but that is decently respectable. That will get you somewhere. And yeah, this is quite nice. I like this. I like this deck. I think this deck is quite nice. Yeah. Don't really got much else to say. I'm definitely going to be testing out this deck. I definitely want to try out the boost order package in this deck, because I think it has a lot of potential here. And like the biggest thing to figure out with this deck is one, consistency pieces to find your grade 4 in time, of course. But the other thing is finding the ways to get your other rearguard columns to sufficient power levels, because like your 4th and 5th attack, completely fine. Swing 28 with your Vanguard solo on Persona Ride turn, that's completely fine numbers for a Vanguard. A Vanguard doesn't actually need to get that high to be threatening. What we really need to focus on with deck building for this deck is the numbers we are getting on our 2 rearguard swings that are not the Colossus swings. Falcracia is a very obvious answer to help with this issue. Falcracia, even if we're not, like, the dream is obviously sometimes being able to throw a grade 4 into Soul and getting plus 20k. That's not very likely to happen very often. But just, there's a lot of grade 3s in this deck that we're going to be running. So plus 15 is still like really good. Like just being a 25k swing is super solid. Like we just want to be hitting like those 33 numbers ideally, 28 at minimum. And if we can get there, we'll probably be in a good place. So yeah. Actually, we can get Falcracia to 38 pretty easily because we can throw a Gear Parrot behind it. Gear Parrot's 13. That's pretty solid. And of course, there's the option of with boost order stuff, throwing the grade 3 behind Falcracia, and doing that, it nets us a, what would that be? 25, 43k column. That's pretty good. Those are good numbers actually. So yeah, we can get to some good stuff with this. But before we head off for today, let's briefly talk about the 2 cards of the day that we have been between the 2 streams. Alright, so first we have this random cross overdress support, grade 2. It's an on hit that makes you EB3 to add back a cross overdress from your drop to your hand. why are you making me pay cost for an on hit when the card doesn't even get any power? Like, this card is awful. This card's so bad. Holy shit. Then we have Stealth Beast Shinko. When it's retired from a rearguard circle by any card ability during battle phase, either player's battle phase, use Soul Blast 1 to return it to your hand. This has some like applications in Finesse, sure, but not doing anything else kind of sucks. It also sucks that it's only in battle phase. I would like to be able to use this in Seville. That would be nice if I could do that. Yeah, I probably wouldn't make the cut anyways. I'll be honest. Yeah, I probably wouldn't make the cut anyways. Not doing anything else is like pretty weak, but like this is some form of an Ashura support, I guess. And there's like a bunch of decks in Dragon Empire that can retire during the battle phase, so like that's useful enough. And then the last card is when it is placed on rearguard or when it's bound face up by your card ability. This is stealth, of course, so it works with Sojo Doji. If you have a Great Rearguard or Vanguard, you may Soul Charge 1. So, like, doesn't really do anything. There are better ways of getting Soul within Dragon Empire, especially within Stealth. Like, Forktail's a way better way to get Soul than this. So, yeah, this isn't, I don't see this being any good. Then we have Lyrical cards, once again. So, this is a Grade 2, common, 10k Grade 2. When it attacks a Grade 3 or greater, and you have 3 or more face down cards in your damage, it gets power plus 5k. If there are 5 or more, plus 10k. This is way too conditional for this sort of power gain. You need to be getting like bigger power gain than this to be really useful at this low amount of power gain. Then Grade 1, when this unit is placed onto Guardian Circle and you have 3 or more rear guards, during this battle gets shield plus 5k, and if there are 5 or more, shield plus 10k instead. So this could be something that you'd use in place of Reki in a hypothetical lyrical deck that keeps all of its board on the field. But I don't think that deck exists. Is the thing. Like lyrical just like has some really so many of its generic tools that's its bounce stuff its rear guards back. That's like I'm not going to end the turn with 5 rear guards on my field. So this is never going to be 15k shield, which just makes it way worse than the other generic 15k shield options available in Lyrical. Then we have, lastly, we have Shyness Singer Tammy. This is the EB3, get plus 5k shield for each grade of the attacking unit. As we've been over previously, these seem really solid in a deck that has the deck space for them and also the energy to be able to use them. So I am keeping my eye on these cards for sure. Very nice cycle. I like it a lot. And with that said, that's going to be it for us today. I will see you next Tuesday when we have another stream. With that said, this is Hunter Surge signing off.